Stephen is on the line in Springfield, Missouri. Stephen, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Mr. Coleman. It's an honor to speak with you.
Well, it's my honor. How can I help today?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First is I would like your perspective on identifying my sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I've actually been offered a position yesterday, and would like your take on if I should accept that.
Okay, great.
And then let me give you a quick backstory. I spent the last 5 years as a golf professional. And in February, I actually transitioned into a 100% commission job selling insurance and quickly learned that that was not for me and my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking to just find some different roles maybe in my sweet spot and to figure out if maybe this new opportunity could lead into that.
Okay, great. What level of pro were you?
So I was an assistant golf professional.
Okay, great. All right. And you were making about how much?
I was making about 30.
Okay, good deal. All right, let's talk about that sweet spot then. So do you have a sense for what it is, or do you just know more about your talent and passion, which are the two components we pull from to see the sweet spot? Where do you stand?
So as I was a golf professional, I thought that was my sweet spot because golf has been my passion since I was a young boy. But as I've gotten older, my priorities changed a little bit now that I'm married, and just spending the time that it took to be successful at that, and also being able to move to wherever the job is to advance, just became a little unrealistic for me. So I've been trying to start from scratch and tried to list out some of my talents and passions and to try to re-identify maybe some new potential roles for me.
Okay. Let's go through this real quick, but I want to come back to the reasons why you left being an assistant golf pro.
Sure.
I want to push on that a little bit. Let's talk about talent. What do you do best besides hit a golf ball?
Right. I have an analytical mind, so I love working with numbers. I am strong at problem solving, and I love to work with my hands, be hands-on.
Okay, now you just told me things you love. Are you good at working with your hands?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it comes natural to me.
All right, so you're analytical, problem solver, and you're very gifted, very handy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Passion outside of golf, which we know you love the game of golf. What do you love to do? Work that you love to do. And you kind of already told us. You like problem solving, you like being analytical, and you like fixing stuff, building stuff. Yes?
Yeah. Beyond those things, the last one I have is this creating ideas. Just being creative and just thinking big is something that I could just spend hours doing.
Give me an idea. Give me an example of an idea that you loved creating.
Whether it just be random ideas on how to improve something, or maybe it's just thinking about golf, or the technicalities of golf swings, or just random thoughts that, like I said, I could just spend hours just trying to make things better. So.
Yeah. All right. Now, this is pretty simple. So you know your talent and passion, and within the sweet spot, it's important to point out to you, Stephen, and to our audience that I believe there are multiple jobs and even multiple career paths within the sweet spot. That's what's exciting about this. It's not one silver bullet. But I want to push a little bit. I didn't buy your reasons for leaving. I think you left because of personal reasons, and you felt some personal pressure. And I don't mean that somebody was a bad guy, but it sounded like to me that you left. One of the reasons was, and I want you to re-articulate it if I say it wrong, but I heard you say one of the reasons you left is because moving on to another thing, or getting promoted and moving up the ladder in the golf pro world at a golf club wasn't feasible. You weren't going to be able to move up. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What was the other? I know what that means. What's the other reason?
So basically, with getting married, basically my priorities changed a little bit, and wanting to spend time with my wife and future family.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but hold on a
second.
Hold on a second. How many hours did you work as an assistant golf pro?
It averaged to around 55 to 60 hours a week.
Yeah, but that's not something you had to do. That's just kind of something you did. Yes or no?
It was expected of me, and that, at least at the course I was at, anyways.
Okay, but I mean, 55 to 60 hours a week for $30,000, that's not something that I think is across the board. That may be the situation in that club, but you also saw the opportunity to move up as well. You could, had you stayed in it, and if you were to go back to it, you could move up, yes or no?
Yes, as long as I'm be willing to move or relocate.
And you're not willing to move because your wife says no, or you say no?
Mostly my wife. Her family, she's very close to the family, and we live near them, and so that's kind of been the main driving force behind that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a problem.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you, because I think your passion is to be a golf pro. And I think you've allowed yourself to walk away from it because you feel like you're having to choose between your passion and your wife and family. That's what I think.
Right.
Am I right or wrong? Let's just call. Now, I'm not trying to talk. I'm not going to create marriage dissension, but I think it's important that you identify what's really going on. Now,
I think that's definitely a strong factor.
Well, let me just put it to you this way.
Yeah.
What if there was another golf club in Springfield, Missouri, and you were able to move into the pro job, so you got more money, you get to control your hours, and you're not having to move? Would you jump at that, or would you still be thinking about something else?
I probably would jump at it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation with your wife. I got to tell you, but before I let you go, let me just say this. It's important that you understand that these other things, this idea of working with your hands, like you could get into renovations and you could get into starting your own construction business on the side, and you could work your way up to that. And I think you'd be very happy. I think that's in your sweet spot. But I'm going to do something I don't normally do. Stephen, I'm going to ask you to hold on. We've got to go to a commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the relationship issue here. I think this has to be addressed. And I don't want to let this go. I want you to stay there. We're going to talk about this marriage conversation that has to happen. I held Stephen over because I want to deal with this marriage issue, because this is a conversation that needs to happen, or else he's going to end up resenting his wife. So we pick Stephen back up. Stephen, here's the deal. I gave the audience the rundown. I gave him the summary. Here's what I'm concerned about. The entire reason you've gotten out of being a golf pro, and it's your passion. You should have heard you talk about it. Like, your voice lit up. I mean, you know it is.
Sure.
And you're a good dude, okay? And I'm not, let me just say this. I'm not beating up on your wife, but if she were on the phone, I would say, ma'am, this is a problem. You are so close to your family, and I appreciate that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that you are holding your husband back from pursuing what he loves because you don't want to leave the same zip code as your family, that is a marriage issue, and it needs to be dealt with. And I think you're a nice guy, and I think that you have decided to say, you know what, I'm going to do what makes my wife happy. But I'm going to tell you, this kind of thing will rear its ugly head one day if this isn't dealt with. Now, if you guys deal with it and she says there's absolutely no way I'm ever leaving this place, we are in Springfield, Missouri the rest of our life, then that's something you're going to have to deal with. But at least you get it out on the table, and then maybe you have to deal with counseling or whatever it's going to take for you to get over it.
Right.
But I'm just curious. The reason I held you is, have you truly had that conversation where to say, babe, this is what I really want to do, and I know you want to be close to family, and I want you to be close to family, but would you be willing to move an hour or two away? I mean, is this something where this is a non-negotiable, or you've just brought it up before, and she's not real comfortable with it, and you're kind of going, well, I don't want to deal with the difficult, messy conversation. I want to know, how much have you all talked about this?
So we've had some pretty serious conversations about it. I feel like I could probably, press the issue maybe a little bit more. I think the fear is that I'm going to miss out on spending time with our future kids, because I'm going to be working weekends and holidays and things like that.
Well, hold on a second. Is that the case?
Potentially, at least based on my experience, that would be the case. I don't know, if I were in a different club or different role, maybe that would be different.
Well, here's my point. This is my whole point. All you have is your current context.
Right.
That's not enough information to make a massive decision like this. Stephen, here's my point. You've walked away from your passion right now. You've walked away from what I believe is your calling on some level. Now, again, I'll be the first to say, if you can be just as happy doing kitchen renovations and, solving people's problems because you're analytical and you can come in and you can fix stuff. And by the way, you said you're creative. So, looking at a kitchen going, hey, what if we did this? All that stuff works. But you have to ask yourself, will I be as happy? Is that what I'm really put on this planet to do? Or Would I love to be around a golf course teaching people how to play the game better that you love so much, and your kids being there with you and they grow up around that golf course? Are you going to have to work some weekends as the pro? Yeah, sure, maybe. But that means you're also off on Mondays and you're not traveling. So the kids are in your life. I just think you need to talk to some club pros and get a real picture here. I think your current context is all you have, and that's not the full picture. That's all I wanted to say.
I certainly appreciate that.
That's all I wanted to say. Because I think your wife, when you've had the serious conversation, I'm curious to know, and I'll let you go. When you've had the super serious conversations, what's her position on it?
That she's pretty stuck on staying in Springfield, or at least very close. So.
Okay, but again, how many clubs what's close? What does close mean?
Probably within no more than an hour, probably, if closer if possible. So.
It's time for you to get a map out and a marker, the old-fashioned atlas, and draw a circle, an hour radius. Let's at least try that. But again, let's be honest, Stephen, I think you might resent her years down the line.
Okay.
If you walk away from this.
Yeah, well, I certainly appreciate that, Ken.
Listen, she may be uncomfortable, but there's this little phrase that we say in the wedding vows, leave and cleave. It's time for her to get okay with leaving and cleaving to you. Goodness gracious. I got to tell you, I am not going to ever stop giving that advice.